Where's Cynthia? Cynthia, your first story tonight, right? Your first story, and you rolled out 6 10s. Fuck you. That's like bowling 300 the first time you go bowling. What am I doing up here? It was a really good story. I'm just playing with you. Really good. Okay, so I'm supposed to talk about illusions tonight, and what could be more illusionary than hardcore drugs? So I'm going to tell you a little bit of story about my first LSD experience. Okay.
Ooh, all right.
Now, I was 18, heading off to college in New Orleans, and my dad knew that the legal drinking age in Louisiana was 18, and he pulled me aside before I left, and he told me 3 things. Study hard, don't go in the bars, and don't do drugs. I said, okay, Dad, that sounds like pretty good advice. So the first night I'm in New Orleans, I found a bar. And I was legal, I was 18. There was a nice band playing over on the side, and people were cordial. My dad had told me that only liars, thieves, drunks, and reprobates go into bars, so don't go into bars. And I'm kind of looking around the bar and thinking, this looks like a pretty good place. I don't really quite understand what the problem is. So, but as I look around this room, I see how much wisdom my dad had later on, and I realize bars are not such a good thing. So in the summer of 1969, a great American road movie came out that year. It was called Easy Rider, and Dennis Hopper, Jack Nicholson is in it. He plays a lawyer that gets these 2 motorcycle guys out of jail, and Peter Fonda, of course, is the director of the movie, and it's kind of an American classic. They're riding across America on their motorcycles, and the movie ends with them having an LSD moment during Mardi Gras. And I wouldn't particularly say that the LSD moment in Easy Rider was well portrayed. It just didn't seem to make a lot of sense. But it certainly glorified the idea that this was a transcendental experience, and that, you know, people that did this kind of thing occasionally had experiences with God. Now, I didn't particularly want to meet God, but most of the people that I had talked to that had tried LSD thought it was really pretty interesting, and that they did, in fact, meet God. So I was, you know, a little bit open to the idea, but I came home at Christmas, and I was able to tell my dad, Dad, I'm sorry, I've actually been in a couple bars, but I haven't done drugs, but a lot of my friends do, and I don't see what the big deal is. Now, you have to understand, I said this at the dinner table in front of 11 other children, and most of them are 5, 6, 7, or 8. My mom and dad weren't real happy with me telling them that my friends, were experimenting with drugs at college. So, near the end of the second semester, by now I've tried smoking marijuana, and it was kind of interesting, but I'm still reluctant to get into the heavier drugs. And 2 of my friends from the dorm tell me that Easy Rider's playing at Tulane, and do you want to go with us, Chuck? And I said, yeah, sure, that sounds pretty cool. So meet us at 7, come up to the dorm. The movie's at 7:30, and we'll blow a little doobie, and then we'll go over to see Easy Rider. So I thought, okay. So at 5 of 7, I get up to the dorm, and I'm knocking on the door, and there's no answer. And I'm like, this weird thing about 7 o'clock. Where are my friends? This is the dorm room. I knock again, and there's no answer. And so at this point, I'm thinking, do I have the wrong dorm room? I'm on the 5th floor of Beaver Hall. This should be it. And I knock again, and I hear someone say, who's there? I said, Rudy, it's Chuck. Oh, and my friend Rudy and Craig are my two friends I'm meeting. Rudy opens the door, and he's got this terrified look on his face. And he pulls me into the room. Now, the room is all dark, and there's no sound, and my friend Craig is stretched out on the other cot, and Rudy tells me, you can't leave me. I said, why? What do you mean I can't leave you? Aren't we going to see Easy Rider? No, we're not going anywhere. You have to stay with us. I said, why? We took acid about an hour ago, and we don't know where we are and what we're going to do. I said, okay. So I pulled up a chair, and Rudy stretched out on the couch. Playing in the background was WWL, Your Island of Sound. WWL was owned by Loyola, and it was the Muzak station of New Orleans. So for the next 7 hours, while my two friends were sleeping off this terrible LSD trip, I was listening to 101 Strings by Mantovani playing the Beatles. And it was not exactly how I pictured an acid trip was going to be. So it was quite disillusional, to say the least. I wrote a story about this experience for the Loyola Maroon. I could disguise my friends' names. I was sure I was going to get called into the dean's office and asked to rat out my friends. No one ever said anything. I thought maybe the police would come knocking on my door. They weren't curious about it either. But someone told me the day that the story was published, 17 kids from my college ended up in the hospital that night. That someone had made a bad batch of acid. And that was the last time I ever even thought about having LSD. I never wanted to be so out of my mind that I couldn't remember where I was. So I think I dodged a bullet. My dad was right. Drugs are not a good thing.